Good evening, Chiefs fans. Excuse me. Voice is a little rough after that weekend. Had a long gig there on Saturday night. But we're back. We have more Chiefs talk to talk about. There's plenty of things that not only the draft conclude, and for those of you who may have missed over the weekend when I did the live Q&As about the draft picks, there's been a ton of UDFA signings. We're going to talk about that some tonight. We're going to go through really the overall scope of it and what Brett Veach has done this particular offseason to this point. A lot of great things. To get some business out of the way, I want to make sure you guys check out Insurance Incorporated. They are our official sponsor of RGR Football for all of the draft-related content that we're going to do. We being me, and me. I keep saying we. I do get some help from Reagan Cresswell from time to time, as well as Chris and Seth, just to help keep that going. But check it out. If you need auto, home, life, anything insured, you want to call Sean over at Insurance Inc. They do a great job, and they're local. Really nice to support a local business that can help you help them. So check that out. There'll be a link in the show notes as well, and you can check them out anytime you like at Insurance Incorporated, as well as Auto Brokers as well. So a little bit more. Had a couple of hiccups on the other channel for the podcast feed. The service that I used to kind of automate that out of the iTunes feed had some issues. We're going to get back to that, and they should be posting again here soon. Also, want to know what you guys think. I'm considering starting a craft beer and brewing podcast on the other channel too. So let me know what you all think there, or maybe leave some comments on the other channel. Just toying with it at this point, but it's to the point now in the off season with the draft done that I can start catching up on the 100 brewing podcast that I haven't listened to. So, David Molina, thank you already. Jeez. I'm glad you like the guys that they drafted. There's some really positive things to be looking at. That's great. I'm really optimistic about a lot of things. A couple of question marks. Still looking at one position in particular that I think they need help with. But I was on with Josh Briscoe on ESPN and 810 earlier today, and we had a good conversation. He brought up a couple of good points that I'll bring to you guys tonight too. So thank you for the donation, David. I appreciate that. Folks, if you want to help out the channel, feel free. Super Chat's available down at the bottom of the chat. It's that little $ thing. So it's going well. Thank you, Metal Rocker. I appreciate that. I think the defensive draft addressed a number of issues except for one. The cornerback, and we'll probably get to that here in a little bit because there's a lot of options. They brought in Rashad Fenton. I think that they like him in his style and his attitude. From everything that I've heard them comment on, it's about his aggression, about his willingness to play man. He's comfortable in man, and it looks like he's pretty good at it from the small amount of film that I watched. I did not do a lot of research on him pre-draft, so I will do some more. I'm running up against a little issue in that most of the film, especially for the guys in the SEC, every time I post it, I get it taken down because it's copyrighted. So it's a little tough for that. So I think just to forego any issues this particular coming month in May, as I review all the draft picks and stuff, I don't think I'm going to go to film. I'm going to give you pictures, stats, etc. We'll go through the matrix part of it, so you have the athleticism, because that's what comes down to a lot of these picks for this particular team. It's not true of every team in the NFL, but this one it is. Good question. I think it was from Craig Murphy. Thank you, by the way, Craig, for everything you've been doing on social media lately. La Cumbre, blood orange sour tonight. I just too much sweet, too much IPA. I need something sour now. So that's what we're doing tonight. The wife seems to like it a lot too, so that goes a long way. I'm going to try to stop in. Anybody has any other suggestions about breweries, new breweries in Kansas City? I want to know. I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go to BKS again, and I'm always looking for more. So let's start with the questions. Nighthawk, do we need another tight end? I think they do. They can always find another one. This quarterback turned tight end is going to be really interesting because I think he can be more of an H-back. It's kind of like if that quarterback from Denver a couple of years ago, what's his name, would have actually played H-back or tight end, I think he probably would have stayed in the league. But really interested to see what this kid from Harvard can do. And I'm really interested to see how they kind of work him in. Obviously, Sherm's back, and in a pinch, you can run Sherm at the H and the tight end too. But I like Yelder. I liked him coming out, so I think they have some depth there. And then Blake Bell, there's options. I would not be surprised if they pick up another one. They did sign another UDFA from, I think it was Utah State. Don't know anything about him yet. So I'll take a look at that. And obviously you guys are asking about it. So that's a fair question. What's the ceiling for Gary Johnson? Claude Thompson asks. Gary Johnson's a really good athlete. He's undersized and he misses a few tackles here and there. So it may be a little tough, but I think he can make the roster, certainly. He might have to beat out Ben Neiman to do it. And I think Neiman's on the upside as well. So he might have a little bit of a tough slog. It depends how many they keep. And this is going to be a new year. We don't know. Can't really predict as well as we used to how many guys are going to keep at each position because it's a totally different system. So we'll see how it comes down. Do you think that Mecole Hardman will start at punt return? Ben Varnell, possibly. I think they like Tremont Smith. They might have him do punts as well. So I think it all depends how it works out here in OTAs. Pay attention to what happens in OTAs because who takes snaps where is going to tell you the direction they're going in, at least before we get to camp. Do you think the defensive coaches, Dalton Dressler, thanks for the question. Do you think the defensive coaches are comfortable with the corner situation or will they trade for one? I think the defensive coaches like what they've seen and they're going to make the most out of it. But I don't think anybody, honestly, any position coach on any team is going to complain if you get them more talent. So I think it really comes down to value. Janoris Jenkins, Patrick Peterson, even Xavier Rhodes, who's we're hearing rumors about. I don't know if any of it's true, but if you could get somebody for a reasonable deal, according to the GM, the coaches are going to grab it and say, any more talent in my position room, I'm going to be happy with. So I think that's good for them. Good question. Hey, guys. Norman, how are you? Yep, Craig. Thank you. I appreciate that. What do you think of Mark Fields? A couple of you guys have asked about Mark Fields already. Robert Cole, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. Like the picks, but wanted a cornerback. Yeah, they got one in Fenton. Sorry, he's gonna compete, and they need the help. So that's all right. And another guy, Matt Blue. Thanks for your donation too. How do you feel about Mark Fields? And here's the thing about Mark Fields. Didn't play a whole ton at a national championship program. That's tough. What I heard through several sources, not just the ones that put it all out on Twitter, but is that had some confrontation with the coaching staff. Didn't necessarily like what he was being asked to do. Didn't think it fit what he did best. And hopefully he's learned from that, because if you come into the NFL as a rookie and start demanding what you think is best for you, that's going to be a tough road. So I think it's mostly concerning about how he fits in, how he adjusts to being a professional. And that's going to be the maturity aspect that's really going to tell the tale, because I think he's got some skills. I don't think he's particularly, real heavy in athleticism or real heavy in production, but I think he can do a little bit of both. And I think he's largely an unknown quantity. So we're going to see where they line him up and what kind of reps they give him here in the OTAs. Then we'll have a better idea going into camp what we might be able to expect from him. But I think corner is probably a pretty volatile position right now. I do think that if they can, they'll try to add some talent. Let's see. Nighthawk got you. Thanks, buddy. Dwayne, how are you? Andy Anderson. Juan Thornhill from Alta Vista, Virginia. I didn't know that. Okay. Won state in football and basketball. And guess who played? Juan Thornhill. Yes. You can see some film on Twitter that, the guy can dunk. He is an athlete, a well-rounded athlete. And I think that goes back towards what we talked about with Mahomes when he was selected. The baseball background at quarterback, the basketball background at safety. I think they both overplay. And I think well-rounded athletes have a tendency to do well and adapt to new environments, especially when they take a jump in competition level going up to the NFL. Dr. Sanitary 43, can James Williams and Darwin Thompson make the roster? If so, what does the running back room look like? I'm glad you asked. Literally just before we started this, I got on and we recorded with Matt Waldman of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. Matt has an incredible eye for offensive talent. I wish he did defense, but he doesn't. But Matt, one of his favorites was Darwin Thompson. And I'm a big James Williams guy. I like what he brings. And we talked about that. And I don't want to give it away. You guys should listen to the podcast tomorrow on Locked On Chiefs. It'll be up afterwards on the YouTube channel as well. But what I said, and I'll give you a little preview, I think it comes down to something that is going to go WWW Thompson. Maybe, we'll come up with some saying for that, because I think that there's an aspect of 3 Williams and a Thompson there. I think Carlos Hyde is in for a competition. So we'll see what the veteran has in store. Good question, though. Mahomes season, are we talking days, weeks, or months until Chris Jones' extension gets done? I think they're going to try to rush that as much as they can. They want to get that out of the way. The only question is, what are they hearing about availability of veteran corners? So that may be the wrinkle or the reason that they don't move ahead really quickly. I think it's reasonable to say that it's done before camp. Pyruvate. Who is the number one wide receiver? Right now, it's Sammy Watkins, because I am treating Tyreek Hill. Looks like he's going to get put on the commissioner's exempt list, which I think is the best thing for the Chiefs, because they don't have to cut him that way. He won't be part of the team, and they don't have to cut him and let some other team pick him up. And I think I might have said this on here before, definitely on a podcast. I think the Chiefs tried to do the right thing in giving him a second chance. And I think by suspending him, they're trying to do the right thing again. And I don't want to see them penalized by allowing him to go play for another team that might come back and beat them with him, because they tried to do the right thing twice. So I think that's important. I think the league has to step in and make him unavailable to the rest of the league, as well as the Chiefs, by putting him on the exempt list and banning him basically from the league level. I think that protects the community in Kansas City. I think it protects the Chiefs from their initial investment is lost, but it protects them from having someone else hurt them with their own guy that they, in good faith, made 2 attempts to do the right thing for. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's where I stand. What do you think of Cody Thompson? I think he has an outside chance to make the roster. I think he's going to push Kemp and Dieter a little bit. I don't know exactly how much he's going to get. He did have some injury issues, but I do like what he brings. And what Matt told me this afternoon is that he's way better on special teams than I realized. So that may be his inside track. We will see. But I think he will be in the mix. Matt Blue. Oh, Matt, thanks for your donation. If I didn't say that before, and I did answer your question about Mark Fields. Alex Powda, do you think Okafor will have a big season on the defense and be the top 5? And will it be in the top 15? I think Okafor can. I think he's going to be a bit of a role player. I think he's going to push Breland Speaks to start opposite Frank Clark. And I think there's going to be a heavy rotation. I'm looking forward to that. And I think especially early in the season, they're going to just keep rotating until they find what works the best to be the guys that are in there on second down and third down. First down, I think they're going to be able to do whatever they want, because a lot of those guys play with power. I think they're going to be dramatically better against the run. So that may get them into the teens as a team defense. And if they do that, I think that's the recipe for success. You're correct. Currently, Sammy Watkins is the number one. Jalen Jones, you think the gap closed more in the race for the AFC West? I think the other teams, I think the Broncos did better than they've done in any draft under John Elway's control. So there is that. I think the Chargers filled some needs. And I think the Raiders, maybe they didn't get a whole lot more talented, but they got tougher. And I think that's part of it. I still think the Chiefs are out there in front in terms of who to beat. Are the Chiefs okay with the running backs they have plus the guys they drafted? Metal Rocker 13. Yes, I think they are in good shape. I don't think you need to see any more. I think there's going to be some good backs cut from this team. Let's see. Cody Walters. Would a AJ Derby be a good fit? Maybe. I don't think so. I'd like more athleticism. I think the team definitely wants more athleticism, so I'd probably hold off on that one. Oof. Got to turn it the right way. Okay, Aaron Morrow. What about the Princeton lineman? I know she said he was great at pass blocking. Princeton lineman. You mean the Illinois lineman? The quarterback's from Harvard. Yeah. The nasty thing about Allegretti is the new guard. I think he can take some center snaps. Looks like they liked his film at center. And, man, there's like 5 centers that could probably start for this team. Again, they're going to stash whatever they can stash, but they're going to cut a good player that could go start for somebody else at guard in this league. Good question, Aaron. Norman, how do you see the D-O lining up and producing? D-line, I assume you mean? I think it's going to be a collective. I don't think there's going to be, Frank Clark is the only guy that you can really look at and say that he's going to really produce sacks as a known quantity. I think everything else is going to be opportunity. Who's got the matchup of the week, I think, is what it's going to come down to. And I think you're going to see a lot of rotation. I'm looking forward to it. Will they use the wide receiver from Toledo at tight end? No, he's too slight for that. I don't think you want to line him up in line, definitely. But he can run in the trip sets like they do with the tight ends anyway. So, yeah, I think Cody Thompson's got a shot. Who was that? Sorry. Undead Live 2. Undead 2 Live, sorry. Fat Tony, I think everybody was used to our defense. What do you think now that we have a newer one? I think it remains to be seen. I think they got to put out. I think they lined it up pretty good. I think they got guys that they like. Now they got to produce. So we're going to see how it goes. Let's see. Next, Big Chiefers. Are you going to take a look at Gary Johnson? I am some. I'm going to concentrate on the draft picks first, and then we'll go along, just as it goes. I'm traveling the next week or two, so it's going to be a little bit lighter. I'm going to have some videos up, and I'll do the lives on Mondays like always. But as we get down, Gary will be in the summer. Yes, Casey K, you're absolutely right. He is solid depth. Let's see here. Okay, Michael Rodriguez. What are the Chiefs going to do with Benjamin now? The situation at wide receiver. Benjamin's a free agent. He's gone. He's not coming back. He was on a 1-year contract. It expired. They have not made an offer on him. They don't need to. I think they've got enough depth at wide receiver that they like. I'm really feeling optimistic about Garrick Dater, to tell you the truth. I think he can take a step forward. In relief time, I thought he looked good. He's got to make another step forward, but I think that he can. Jeff Lever, prospect you're most excited for long-term and why? That's a very good question. I think it's Thornhill. I really do, because he was productive in college, but I think he still has a way to go mentally, being able to recognize route combinations and what might be coming. And I think once he puts that on top of his athleticism and his instinct for the ball, I think he could be a very, very good, if not Pro Bowl safety. So that's where I'm going to rest it for right now. I reserve to change my mind once OTAs and camp come around, but that's how I'm feeling today. That was a good question. Sanitary 43, can Blake Mack make it back as a tight end for camp? I think he could. There's definitely, not a lot of depth there. I just don't know. I liked what I saw from him last season. We'll see if they sign him back. Yep, good job. You're on top of it, Robert. Who ends up making Carlos Ruiz? I don't know. It's going to be a battle at wide receiver. I don't know what it's going to look like, but Thompson could push the lower guys, Kemp and Dieter, up the board. Hardman's your number 2. There's a lot of talk I saw today about folks thinking, can he compete for 3? No, he's 2. It's Sammy and Mecole Hardman. It's who runs in the 3 with, maybe DeMarcus Robinson is in the lead. I'm not so certain. We'll see. Bias cheese. It's not that bad. It could be a giant Jayhawk. I know you Mizzou guys get annoyed with it, but hey, you got to be true to who you are. So every now and then you'll see me in blue. Let's see here. What would you think about a trade of Speaks for Solomon Thomas? I think it's probably a push. I wasn't impressed with Thomas coming out. I haven't been impressed with what he's done in the league. So it might be a way for two teams who maybe made mistakes, if they want to admit mistakes, could trade and try to get something back out of it. So not a terrible idea. Donnie Couch, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Thoughts on Darwin Thompson? I think he's a little undersized. I worry about longevity, but I think the big thing for him is going to be, can he pass block well enough? Matt Waldman says that he can pass catch just fine. So it's, can he protect Mahomes when he's not actually the recipient? That's going to be the question for me with him. But thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Let's see. What's the best way to get, good question, Bass Mobile. What's the best way to get everyone on the same page with the 4-3? Grind. Get in these OTAs and grind. There are a lot of guys, especially a lot of the new arrivals, that are familiar. And, In the secondary, you don't need to know that much about how the 4-3 is lining up. And, they're going to be in the nickel a lot. But all the new arrivals have experience in the 4-3, so it's not going to be foreign to them. Hitch is from a 4-3 a lot. Ragland learned some 4-3 when he was in Buffalo. He didn't make a great transition. I still like him at middle linebacker, especially if you're going to blitz him, which I think they should do nearly nonstop, because I like Reggie Ragland coming downhill. What do you think of the person? No, you guys asked that? Okay. Oh, and can he be an eventual Fisher replacement? I don't know about that. Not from what I've seen, and I haven't seen a whole lot, but no. I think they're still looking for a swing tackle and an eventual takeover person. We'll see, though, Aaron. And I'll try to do a little more research on him in the next month or two. Let's see here. Andy, have you heard anything about Benjamin Watson? He was rumored that Casey was calling him out of retirement. I haven't heard anything besides that rumor. So sorry. Tyreek Hill demanding respect for yeah, you're absolutely right. Where or does Wiley stand a better chance? Wiley can play tackle. I think of the guys that I'm thinking of that are on this roster, I think Wiley might be the best option this season to be the swing tackle. And I think they love him at guard too. I mean, if they wanted to get nasty and just bowl people over, run LDT and Wiley. I think Khalil McKenzie's a big question mark. Can he transition back to offense? How far has he gotten? They clearly wanted him enough to keep him covered on the roster last year. And I like the idea running behind him. So let's do that. Nighthawk, no, Emmanuel did not get drafted. John Coy, can Sherman be a tight end too? Yes, he can. But I don't think that he will. They're going to leave him there. I think they might run a little more H back, especially with the former QB / athlete is what they called him, from Harvard. Love it. So look for him in OTAs. Pay particular attention to him for the tight end 2 H back kind of role. Okay, talked about Sherman, more tight end. That's what I think is going to happen. I like Yelder. I still think he has a ways to go. I'm not sure about Bell. What do you think about the punter that they brought in? Is he just a camp body, or are we moving on from Colquitt? I think it might be a competition. I mean, I'm the last guy that wants to see Dustin Colquitt go anywhere. I like guys that stay with one team for their career and are dedicated, and he certainly is. That said, he is older, and he's the most expensive punter in the league. I think it might just be trying to push him a little bit, just to see if he's still got it compared to a young leg. But we'll find out. I don't think Dave Tobe isn't a guy that strikes me as someone who moves on just to move on. So I think it's going to have to be one if anything's going to happen with Dustin Colquitt. Thoughts on the Michigan State wide receiver? I don't have much, Sandman. Another guy that I didn't do film work on because he wasn't on my draft board. I'll go back and we'll go through some of the UDFAs. We talked about Fields. I think he's one that'll that has a good chance to make the roster. I won't say he definitely will. James Williams definitely, I think, has a chance to make the roster, and Cody Thompson. Those are the big three for me of the UDFAs that I think could stick on the 53. Demetrius Scott, do you think the Chiefs make a big trade at cornerback? And also, how do you feel about Thornhill? I think I talked about Thornhill. Happy about him. I think he has upside still too, and I like that. I think they could make a trade at corner. I don't know if anything's real about Patrick Peterson or if it's just all the Chiefs fans wanting it. It's a great fit. Patrick Peterson's a stellar player, one of my favorites. I just don't know that the Cards are going to give him up for any kind of real value. And I don't think the Chiefs have much that they can give up unless they mortgage the future. And I don't think that's necessarily worth it. So it depends on the cost. I think Janoris Jenkins has a better chance to get cut, despite what the Giants are saying about him being a role model to train all these young guys. I don't think he wants to be a puppy trainer. So I think he's going to, at some point, get fed up and want out and get a better team that can put him to use. I think both would upgrade the corner position. More Kelsey, you guys heard that. The Chiefs solid at safety with Honey Badger, Sorensen, and the 2 DBs they drafted. Metal Rocker 13, good question. I think they are, and I think Armani Watts and Lucas are guys that are going to fill in. I like Watts. I still think he has upside. He got hurt so early, I just don't know that we know. So I'm looking for that. Dang, we're 25 minutes already. 250 people on a Monday night after I've been talking all weekend. Good job, you guys. Spread the word. Keep that going. We are approaching, by the way. We're up over 8,000 subs. So thank you for everyone that you've told about it. Keep that going. It's great. And it's getting to the point where this can be a hub where we can all talk about stuff and be informed and see things rather than just the podcast, which is tough when it's not a visual medium. So, and also we're getting more people interested in the show and willing to support us, like Sean is from Insurance Incorporated. You know, he sponsored stuff in the postseason. He's sponsoring us here for the draft coverage. So please give him a shout if you need anything insurance-wise at Insurance Incorporated, and there'll be links in the show notes. Let's see. At the running back, we got in the 6th. Reminds me of Hunt. Hard to bring down. Could he be a surprise addition to the roster? Brian Gooch. Brian, I don't know that he's going to be much of a surprise. I think right now I'm leaning towards him making the roster, along with James Williams, Darrell Williams, and Damian Williams. So I'm going www.thompson is the name of the running back crew. That's my thought today anyway. Let's see here. Depth chart at D-line is definitely going to be heavily rotated. Yes, you're right. Dragons are cool. I like that name. For those of you who watch Game of Thrones, dragon names are cool. Do you see them converting to linebacker and to get even more playing time in the rotation? I think Okafor could play some linebacker, could play Sam for you, but they got Wilson on purpose. And I like Neiman, and I think Gary Johnson can definitely play pass coverage as a Sam. And if you're going to swap out for another pass rusher at the Sam in that particular situation, okay, that's fine. I think you're going to see a lot of 5-man rushes. I think Spags wants to get to a 4-man rush if he can. But I think there's some versatility in there. Let's see. Any regular season predictions? No, I'm not there yet. I haven't even looked at the schedule. I've been all draft until this point. So, Doctor, thoughts on national jerseys ring of Javon Belcher? Nah, I'm not even getting into that. That's just stupid. If you're just going to run down a list of bad things that have happened to this organization, okay. But they're not related in any way. They are completely, I believe that Belcher was related to CTE, a clinical condition, and the rest of this is all behavioral. So I'm not even going any farther than that. Richard Klein, wasn't Breeland considered a lockdown corner a couple of years ago? He was, but it was a different scheme. They played a lot of zone in Washington when he was there with Fuller. The injury last year, I don't know if you're going to call him a lockdown and a man, but I think he can play man, and I think he showed last year. A lot of people are down on what he did in Green Bay, and I am not. I thought he was really productive for the limited number of snaps that he played. So I'm positive on Breeland. And I think Fuller's a great 2. I think Breeland's a great 3. I think you still need a guy that'll take away half of the field. And that's what the Chiefs need. And, you know, they're happy enough with their guys that they feel if they bolster everything else, it's hard to rebuild every level of a defense in one season. So they're going to keep chipping away at it. And I think they'll get there. Let's see. YOLO Yodo 12 Gaymark. I don't know what that name is, but hey, thanks for the question. Do you think that Mecole Hardman can be the next Tyreek Hill? No. I don't think there is another Tyreek Hill. And I would have told you the same thing about X Factor back in the day. Dante Hall was Dante Hall of his era. Tyreek Hill is his of this era. But I think Mecole Hardman can be a deep threat on par with what Tyreek can do. He doesn't have quite as much shiftiness. He's got to learn to run routes, much like Tyreek did when he was drafted. But I'm not going to put that comparison on him. He's not the same guy. He's not as elusive, but he can stretch the field just about as well. Okay. Scott Vansel, do you think the best prospect is Sanders? If they coach him up and got him a lot of Aaron Donald. Sanders. Not sure who you're talking about exactly. Maybe hit me back on that, Scott. Michael Nelson, since the D has been so bad for a year, do you think that the offense will have the ball a third more? I think they can. The other thing is, I think part of what happened last year is they played from behind so often that Mahomes had to put up a lot of points. So that's significant too. Oh, I'm falling behind here, guys. Sorry, I'll speed it up. After all this stuff with Hunt and Hill, do you see them reaching out for a future player that could be looking for a second chance? I think Frank Clark is that player that has had a second chance. I don't think they're going to take many more stabs in the dark on guys with history off the field. So I could be wrong, but I wouldn't. Robert O, I read that Thompson squatted 690. Is he really that strong? Yeah, I saw a front squat that was like 550. And although I was a little worried about his knees being so far out front, he's the real deal. He's a strong kid, especially for that size. Jeff Lever, fantasy, one player in the AFC West that you'd want to have on the Chiefs. Another AFC West player? Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I haven't, I just have glancing looks at the other AFC West teams and who they drafted, but I'll take a look. We signed Nighthawk. We signed 2 UDFA quarterbacks. One is Mike Schuler's kid, so should have a good head on his shoulders. We'll see if he pans out. I'm guessing trying to push Litton a little bit. Hello, David. Jason, our punters won't see much action. Knock on wood. Chris Anderson, who do you think the backup quarterback will be? It'll be Henny. One more season. Then he'll be pretty expensive for a backup. His contract escalates as far as I remember. So that's what they're searching for now. Who can become the 2 in 2020? Clydes, I talked about Gary Johnson earlier. Just rewind and check that out or watch it when it restarts. Mahomes season. Ryan, you should start your own RGR subreddit. I don't have time. I am so busy creating content and looking at prospects and stuff. If you start it, though, I will show up. I'm on Arrowhead Guys every now and then. I'm on Chiefs Planet every now and then. I just don't have a whole lot of time to converse much because I'm always preparing for the next thing I'm going to talk about. But yeah, hey, start a subreddit. I'd love it. I will come in and hang out with you guys sometimes. Aaron Morrow has subscribed to my wife's too. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Tell her I'm sorry for all the notifications she's getting. Blake Anthony, Mecole certainly is no Tyreek, but do you think that he can have a higher football IQ coming into his rookie year than Hill did, as mainly a returner? No, I think he's going to get a lot of reps at receiver, and I don't know if they want to put the return pressure on him. I think they like Tremont Smith. I think they should like Tremont Smith, and I think they have other options. So they might run Mecole there, but I would take it easy on him myself. Dwayne Irvin, is there a wide receiver free agent you would bring in? There really isn't anybody out there that I'd be looking for. I think they're okay there. Hog Farmer, so does the Carlos Hyde make the roster? I think he might be the odd man out. These young guys might be pushing him off the roster. We're going to have to see. I don't know what kind of shape he's in. Jax didn't like him, so we'll have to see how he looks. Next, do you think there's pressure on the defense to at least be above average since the offense may take a step down? Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on Spags too. This is right now the limiting factor. That and the wide receiver position are the limiting factors on a Super Bowl run. As it stands right now, do you feel that we'll still be the number one offense, Chris Warner? No, I don't think anybody is always, perennially the number one. But I think they'll be a top 5 offense. This wide receiver thing is going to have to come along though. But when you have a difference maker like Pat Mahomes, and for military types, there's a term that they use that I equate to Pat Mahomes, and that's force multiplier, because he can make good players that much better by what he does, and I think that's a good way to look at Pat Mahomes. So I'm optimistic about that. A couple of guys, Brian Gooch, another donation. Thanks, buddy. With the addition of Irish Colin, could he push Speaks out? And Speaks used to trade bait. I don't know that Speaks has any trade value, and they do play different positions. Speaks is going to be an end. I don't think that Colin Saunders is going to be an end very often. They could for a change of pace, because I think he can go out to like a 5-tech, maybe even a little wider, but no, I think he's going to play mostly in between like 4-eye to 4-eye, and that's where you're going to see Colin Saunders line up. Adam Daughtry, how are you? Do you think Kelsey gets 1,000 yards? I think it's a better possibility than it was last season, because I think you're going to have to feed him a bit more. He's going to be probably the primary target now rather than the second. Doctors, their CB depth stays the same going into the season. What are your thoughts? No Super Bowl team has ever had CB depth that thin. It took Malcolm Butler, a rookie, to make a play in the Super Bowl for the Pats to win that one against the Seahawks. So, yeah, I get your point. I think there's going to be some cut downs. I think there's going to be some guys that are let go, before camp. I think there's going to be options. But I agree. I think they do need to add to it. Samir, how are you? It's been a while. With Demetrius signed with Browns, who's the tight end too? That's the big question. We don't know. I think it's an open competition, and it'll be interesting to see. I said earlier, I like Yelder. I don't know who's going to win out, but I think it's going to be good to see him compete. So, Eric Streeter, does Reeser make the 52-man roster? Maybe. Right now, possibly. If there's an addition, I don't think so. While he did great in the AAF, I don't know that I saw him progress against NFL competition. So we'll have to see how camp goes. But I think he's a guy with experience that if you have to keep him, you can feel solid with that. I don't want to start the guy, but he can come in relief, and I think I'd be comfortable with that. So, Daniel Collins, D-Rob or Kemp? Robinson right now. Robinson can still play all three positions. I'm not sure that's true of Kemp. I haven't seen him line up in the slot that I remember. And the mental part of it, can he know all three positions? I'm not sure that he's had to yet. I know that's what they're working for. That's what Andy wants out of all of his receivers. But Robinson struggled with sight adjustments, from my opinion, as well as just beating man sometimes. I think he's good ad lib, especially with Mahomes, so that gives him an advantage. So I'm going to go with D-Rob right now. Evan, do you think there's a lot of pressure on the defense? Yeah, there definitely is. Gary Johnson's small. He does miss some tackles, at least from what I read. I didn't do a ton of tape on him. I think I watched a game. I'm not going to speculate beyond that. I heard a couple of things about, non-physical things, I'll put it that way. So it's just going to see how he works out. Why so many quarterbacks, Patrick Mitchell? Good question. I think they brought in EJ to push Litton a little bit. I don't think they're impressed with EJ Manuel much. I think they want Andy's philosophy is always draft a quarterback. They didn't draft one, so they grabbed a couple in free agency. That's perfectly fine. UDFAs are cheap, and you can sometimes find value there. So I think it's throw them all against the wall, and whoever can come out playing this offense the best to try and push Litton and Henne, I think that's what they were looking for. Norman, I talked about the running backs off the top. Just rewind or whatever. Got that one. Oh, nice, Phil shot. Yeah, drink homebrew. I am considering, I think I told you guys that, but I'll talk about that on the other channel too. Robert O, what scares me is Derwin James and Nasir Adderley. Yeah, that's a tough combination. They're going to have to really be specific about how they attack that. Favorite UDFA recently added, James Williams is my favorite in this UDFA class. Thank you, David. Let's see. Adam Daughtry, do you think we will have a new Poe with Saunders? I don't think so. Saunders isn't a stand there and take on double teams, which Dontari really wasn't either. Saunders is a penetrator. He's quick. He's explosive. He's got good handwork, and I think he's going to be able to make a difference. I don't think he's going to stand there and take on double teams. That's funny. Perfect player. Call him Khaleesi. That's awesome. Fireman 10 to Juice. Can Ward start at corner? Right now, he is a starter at corner. And I treat, three corners as the starters. I think he'd be a little bit protected to be the fourth. I think he's good physically. I think he's got good instincts. I think he's got a couple of footwork things, maybe. That's when he was taking advantage of them on plays that he was beaten. That's what I saw was some foot things, the way he turned his hips, knowing when to. And I think teams might try to take advantage of that. I'm hoping he's not the next Marcus Cooper. I think he's better than that. But I would like to see them upgrade. Frank Lopez, what do you think of Chiefs signing Ben Watson as a tight end too? I talked about him a little bit earlier. If he's willing to play and he can still move, okay. His experience is kind of a boost for him. But man, last time I saw him move, it wasn't that great. So maybe a long shot. 40 minutes. All right, 5 more minutes, folks. Get your questions in. What do you think? What do you expect Chris Jones to play some DE on passing downs? Jeff Lever, good question. I think they will. I think they're going to try to be multiple, and they're going to try to move it around. They're going to try to really get offensive lines off guard. And Chris can do that. I think we saw him do it some last season. I think that's a solid plan. Carlos Ruiz, did Brian Pigel make the 53? I think he's got a shot. He's in there with Dieter and Kemp in my book. But he was really explosive, and I thought he progressed during camp. So if he has recovered fully and can progress again through camp, he might overtake all those guys. We don't know. But I like his skill set. Blake Anthony, I will be at camp this year. I usually go the last weekend on the years that I go. And I hadn't been, last year was my first year in about 5. But I am going to try to make it annual. We'll probably set something up this year because hopefully Chris can make it up there, and we'll hang out with Matt Derrick, and maybe we'll set something up where we can all meet up someplace. Thanks for asking, though. That's a good idea. Thank you, Adam, for the reminder on the thumbs up. That always helps, folks. YouTube likes to see people leave comments and leave thumbs up. That's how they rate like whether you're doing something worth promoting or not. And it's amazing. As great as you guys are, still like 40% of the views on this channel come from people who don't know who I am or what this is. Brand new people searching YouTube for Chiefs. That's how they find it. So the more thumbs up and comments you make, that's great. Hi, Evan. I do play Madden every now and then. Like, I have it, but I didn't buy last year's. I'll buy this year's because Mahomes on it. And I'll try to play a little bit. But usually when I play, I don't play the games. I kind of do it. I play franchise, and I do all the drafting and stuff, and I don't really play the games much. It's kind of a little bit different for me. Let's see. Thoughts on the AFC West opponent, in your opinion, this year? DK 685. Good question. I think they all got a little bit better. I think the Chargers are probably still the number 2. Okay, Scott D, in your opinion, what is the weakest link on the Chiefs team right now? The weakest link. Probably the outsides. Wide receiver and corner. Not necessarily with the starters, but because there's not a lot of experience depth. So that's probably my answer to that. Good question, man. I had to think about that. Chris Dietrich, your opinion that if we trade a corner, who would be the most realistic? I think the most realistic is Jenkins. I think they're trying to talk him up like they're going to keep him because they're trying to get trade value. I don't think they want to. I think they want some of his salary back, and they drafted enough guys that they can roll with. But he is an experienced, leader in that corner group, and I think there is some vibe about him teaching guys. But if it doesn't happen early, I think this summer before camp, I think you might see Janoris Jenkins either cut or traded. Evan, do you think Damian Williams rushes for over 1,000 yards? No, I don't. I think they're going to use a committee. I think they're going to use 3 or 4 running backs this season, and they're going to try to spread it around. I don't think any one of them is going to get 1,000 yards. David Wilkerson, thank you for watching. That makes the whole thing go round. If nobody watches, it doesn't do me any good, right? Last couple of questions. Metal Rocker, do you think the Chiefs will find another guy that can be like Christian the Nigerian Nightmare? No, they don't want a power back. They don't. The most power back on this team right now is Darrell Williams, and it's as much for his power running as it is for his pass catching. It's a great catcher. So, no, I don't think they're going to go that way. It's just not Andy Reid's style. Let's see. I don't even know what that name is, but where do you think Thornhill was on the Chiefs board for safeties? According to what I saw, a quote from Dave Merritt, he was number 1. They got their top guy at safety. So you have to feel good about that if you're a Chiefs fan. How come Spags hasn't had a press conference, Red Rocker? I don't think he wants to. Chiefs aren't really big on having the coordinators talk that much anyway. And I think Spags is, knee deep in trying to figure out what he's going to do, how he's going to deploy this defense. I think we'll see that change come camp in the season. But for right now, I think he's just fine not talking to the media. Let's see here. Okay. Between the two players, who would you rather see 100% have a clean slate? Hill or Hunt? I don't care for either of them. I would cut both of them. The only thing that I don't think the Chiefs have cut Hill yet for is so they don't just give him up to somebody else. I think the league needs to step in and take control of these things so that teams that proceed in good faith to try to help a guy have a second chance don't get penalized when he screws it up. Luke Berry, can we call Patrick Highlight Mahomes? Sure. Anybody can call him that. What else? Okay, last question. Carlos Ruiz, does Andy Reid draw up some red zone trick plays for Saunders? There's a video of him catching a TD. There's several videos of him catching TDs. He played fullback in high school and caught passes. And maybe not season one, but yeah, I think you're going to see some of the things that Dontari Poe got to do. I think it's Colin Saunders. And I just said Kalen again. Sorry, Colin. I think Colin has a shot at that. And go check out the Locked On Chiefs podcast from yesterday and today. I can't remember which one it's in. But I have a good scenario about how they might go about that. Let me know what you guys think of it. So anyway, that's it for me tonight. Thank you for hanging out. It's been 45 minutes, 300 folks. Way to go. Keep spreading the word. Check out Insurance Incorporated. I'll have probably another video late this week. I'm going to be traveling, and then we'll try to meet up next Monday night again. So thank you for all your time, and I'll talk to you then.